So where she got that revolutionary attitude from, you think?
Well, probably because she came from Ireland. She was born in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she thought that Ireland wasn't being well or fairly governed by Englishmen.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that's where it came from.
That is where.
I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah. So, is there any influence of grandfather, like her mother's side? Because I don't think father's side grandfather was alive at that time.
No, no. Her father's side. Oh no, I didn't know anything about it. No, very little about his father's side. His father's side came. Her father came from fairly humble beginnings, whereas the Hamiltons were supposed to be quite
Richer.
high in society. I don't know, or middle class, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know that her father was in fact of the same
Mm-hmm.
classification. Where the English, they all put people into upper class, middle class, lower class. I
Yeah.
don't know which class they were in,
Mm-hmm.
but I suspect that her father
Mm-hmm.
was of a lower class than her mother.
Mother. Okay. Yeah. So her father was quite revolutionary in mind, you think?
He wanted to become he wanted to join the church.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the linen trade before that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's in the linen trade in
Clothing.
textiles, clothing and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't like that very much. And all his time he wanted to be. My understanding is that he wanted to enter the church,
Mm-hmm.
and he approached the Church of Ireland, which
Mm-hmm.
was the Protestant church in Northern Ireland, and they refused to send him
Mm-hmm.
to Oxford to study
Theology. Yeah.
And she approached the Congregational Church,
Uh-huh.
and they offered to pay for her, so pay for him. So he went to Oxford, became a priest, and then he was posted first of all to
Great Torrington, isn't it?
Sorry?
That was a Great Torrington.
No, that was the last place he was
Oh,
at.
right, okay.
There was one where both May and Margaret were born.
Is it?
Somewhere in the hang on, what's the name? It's a name like Border or my memory's giving me. I'll think about it in a minute. But it's in Yorkshire anyway.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
An industrial town in Yorkshire.
Mm-hmm.
Begins with a B, not Bradford,
No.
because my mother was born in Bradford, but that's not
Okay,
that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
where it was.
Yorkshire.
It'll come to me. And then he then afterwards he was at Torrington afterwards.
Okay. Yeah.
That was his last posting.
Okay. And that's where he died as
That's
well?
where he died.
Oh.
That's why he's buried in Torrington.
In Great Torrington. But that cemetery is named after Richard Noble. I think, is it the youngest son who died? It's like 18 months old. I read that plaque, and it says the cemetery was started with Richard Noble, who was a little child who died in the family, I think.
Oh, so he must have been an eldest brother.
Yeah.
Richard, there was Richmond.
No, Richmond was the youngest.
Richmond was the
He lived
and
long,
There was
yeah.
Margaret, May, and Richard, and Richard, Margaret, May, Richmond.
Oh,
In
yeah.
that order, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
May's
so.
the middle one,
May is the middle one, yeah.
and
So Richard died,
Yeah.
and then the cemetery is named after, his death, and
that's
then
interesting. I
then
didn't know that.
everybody, yeah, and then I think her father died.
Yes.
Yeah, and everybody is there. I saw Margaret, May, and even Richmond.
May as well as she.
May as well, yeah, because May's name is there as well.
But I don't think her ashes are there, are they?
I don't know what is there, but May's
But her
name
ashes,
is there as
her
well.
ashes would have been in Johannesburg, not in
Yeah.
South Africa.
I wonder who wrote that name then, because that was
Oh
quite
no, well, it
interesting.
probably wrote it. It may have been. Could have been my mother
Oh.
or my mother's sister.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
My mother's sister who died in 1946.
Okay.
She was Cicely
Yeah.
Noble.
Yeah, yeah. So
She was
you have
never
seen
married.
May, no, May, isn't it? You've seen May Wilson quite close.
Sorry?
You have seen your grandmother.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Can you tell us a little
No,
bit
well,
about?
what used to happen, she was quite a strict and severe kind of person, because I think that's probably came from her own upbringing when she was sent to the school with Margaret, where the story is she said she got more religion than food.
She got more religion than
And
food.
I know that you know, she had a very erect posture, absolutely face strict, upright like that. And she told me that was because when she was at the school, they had to sit down and then they tied a ribbon around their front of all the little girls to make sure they sat up straight.
Where is it in the Halifax
That's-
school?
I don't know whether it was Halifax or where it was, but I thought it was somewhere in the Lake District, but I think you
No,
say...
I found that both of them, their names are written in the Crossley Heath School. That was the orphanage school or something.
The old what?
Orphanage.
Oh, yeah, was it?
Yeah.
Halifax.
Halifax, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So they.
I always had the impression that she was sent, maybe she was sent there by a society for the, you know, that looked after the
Children of impecunious.
yeah, I thought she was
Ministers.
sent to a school of impecunious, the children of impecunious clergymen. In other words, poor children.
Poor children, yeah, yeah.
But I think there's poor children rather than anything to do with the clergy. Well, I think the clergy, probably the society or what it is, the congregational church or whatever they were, sent them there to that school.
Yeah,
at
to that
Halifax.
school, yeah.
And their mother just was destitute. She had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened. She may have gone back to Ireland and to her family there, but I don't know. But the two girls were left there.
They lived on their own almost.
Yeah, they were
isn't it?
very, very hard childhood.
Very hard. And that made them so, disciplined and
Yes.
fighting attitude,
Yeah.
if you like. Yeah.
Fighting spirit.
Fighting
Yeah.
spirit,
Yeah.
yeah.
To survive.
To survive.
But-
So, what your grandmother told you about Nivedita when, what do you remember?
Not a great deal. She didn't talk about a great deal about it, but she did tell me who she was and what a bit of something that she'd done, that she started a school in Calcutta. And that at first I thought it was somewhere else, not in Calcutta, but I got it wrong. And just very little, because, and I mean, she died a long time ago. She died in about 1943 or 44, something like that.
1944. So,
Did she die in
you
1944?
No, I'm asking you.
I'm
I don't
guessing.
know.
I'm guessing about there.
Yeah. How old were you at that time?
14.
You were 14. Oh, wow.
I was born in 1930. You see.
Yeah. So
And
you
I,
told.
and I tell you what happened. My brother and I used to sing in a church choir at the St Mary's Cathedral in Johannesburg.
Okay.
And every Sunday we'd go to a service, the Matin service, and afterwards we always used to go and see, my Gamma, as we called her, Gamma and my aunt Cicely. Cicely was her daughter. They each had a single flat in a block of flats in Johannesburg, not very far from where we were singing in the choir.
All right.
So we used to go see her every Sunday morning. And she was very sweet. She always found a sixpence or something for us.
And so Cicely, how was Cicely related to
She was
Sister
my
Nivedita?
mother's sister.
And so Sister Nivedita was her
Her aunt.
Aunt. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She was. You see, Nivedita was May's sister.
Yeah, yeah.
Cicely was May's daughter.
May's daughter, yeah.
She had 3 daughters.
Is it?
My mother, Cicely, and she was always known as, she was Cicely Noble. She never married.
Okay.
And then the third one was somebody called Ruth Olive, also Wilson, but different Wilson, not the same family.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same as Grancy, isn't it?
That's Grancy.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've seen Grancy's photograph in Alberta's family. You know, they were relatives to Queen or something. It's Lord Montagu. You heard about them?
Montague.
Montagu, yeah. Lord Montagu. And because they were like Josephine MacLeod's family, and I have been there to see, I was lucky enough to see their family album, and there was a name labeled Grancy. So,
Goodness.
yeah, that was in America because they lived in America, Ridgely Manor. They
But her
helped
name
Swami
was,
as well.
Her name was Ruth Olive.
Olive, yeah, yeah.
O-L-A-V-E.
Yeah, so Sister Nivedita and Grancy, those two were there in that family photograph.
Okay.
So that was quite interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
I know that Grancy used to correspond with.
yeah,
with-
the letters that you gave me, they
Yeah,
were
I think
written to
there was something
Grancy.
amongst those.
Yeah.
She was very fond of Sister Nivedita.
Very fond of, yeah, because I've seen
Grancy.
that.
And
Grancy.
she died in Hermanus.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and also I wanted to know your mom's name is.
My mother's name is Margaret Bowes Noble, married and became Margaret Bowes Wilson.
Okay, yeah. So Margaret Bose, and this is obviously this Bose comes from Jagadish Chandra Bose.
Jagadish Bowes.
Jagadish Bose.
Because it's quite interesting. I don't quite know how all this happened. Well, I suspect how that happened is that my grandfather was working on radio
Mm-hmm.
the same time as Marconi and various people like that.
Okay.
And I think they all
Your
knew-
grandfather is
You-
Ernest Wilson.
is Ernest
Yeah. Okay.
Ernest Jowett
Mm-hmm.
Wilson,
Okay.
and he was working on radio, and came to know Jagdish Bose because Jagdish Bose got his knighthood
Mm-hmm.
because he learned to measure the wavelength of radio waves.
Mm-hmm.
A very complicated and difficult thing to do, which he found a way of doing it, and he got a knighthood because of that. And that interest in radio was where I think he and my grandfather became
Mm-hmm.
acquainted and good friends and so on. And I don't know whether that friendship had anything to do with the Swami getting involved in the family, but I would have thought it probably did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. But Swami passed away before Jagadish Chandra Bose became so close to your family. Is that right?
Sorry?
Swami died in 1902.
Yeah,
And when your mother was born, do you know?
1900.
1900. Okay. So that time your mom was named as Margaret Bose.
Was, yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Bose was very close to your family anyway, isn't it,
Yeah,
that time?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I knew that he was because, how would my mother get a name like Bose?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Very
That's interesting,
unlikely
isn't it? Very.
For
So the
Yorkshire or
Margaret came
Lancashire
from
people.
Nivedita, obviously. Margaret, the first name, was kind of
Yes,
following
Margaret
of.
also came from Nivedita, you see.
Yeah.
Because that was her sister's name, her aunt's name.
Okay. She
So
was
she's
named
Margaret
after
Bowes Wilson.
Margaret Bose Wilson.
And then when she got married, she called herself Margaret Wilson Orpen. She dropped the Bowes.
Okay,
It
yeah.
wasn't politically correct
Yeah.
in South Africa,
Okay.
Awful that it was.
Why is that? Why?
Well, because, it's the old colonial kind of attitude that anything English is good, anybody of colour
Non-Eng-
is a lesser human being.
Yeah.
It's-
Very superior and unnecessary.
yes.
Yeah. Mm. So so your grandfather was very close friend of Dr. Bose. How did he react when they found that Dr. Bose didn't get that credit for discovering radio? It was Marconi who
He got
took the
the
credit.
credit.
He got a knighthood.
He got a knighthood.
He
because
got a
of that.
knighthood, but I think the Marconi kind of copied his work or something
Oh,
happened.
really?
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Okay, he got knighthood. I know he's
I know he
Sir.
I didn't know anything about. Was there a problem with Marconi?
Yeah, that's what.
Ah, see, I think that Marconi probably stole his invention.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
know my grandfather was working very hard at radio and stuff like that.
yeah,
But that's all I know.
yeah.
I think there was vaguely somewhere, I think in my mind, that there was some problem with Marconi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what we.
And you know, in my workshop at home, I have a cartoon,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
hand-drawn cartoon, a watercolor painted one, of my grandfather
Mm-hmm.
with his workbench and hammers and saws and all sorts of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in the background to that are some pictures with names underneath them. One is the name of a Spanish
Inventor.
domino or something.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Marconi, and then there's another one which is meant to imply that it could have been him with a big question mark,
Oh,
to say that here was some interesting engineering come scientist.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it must be for both that blank is.
And Ernest Jowett Wilson's father
Mm-hmm.
was what they called a dry salter.
Mm-hmm.
He sold salt,
Okay.
dried salt, to the dyestuffs industry in Bradford,
Okay.
and he was a member of the Bradford Council. He was an alderman on the Bradford
Bradford
Council.
Council. Wow.
So,
Yeah. That's very good. So you are a scientific family, I can see. Can you tell me about
well,
yourself?
to some extent, yes, because to some extent, yes, some extent, no, because that's on my mother's side.
Mm-hmm.
So on my father's side, no.
No.
My father's side, they came from south of Ireland, southern Ireland, from Kildare, from not Kildare.
No,
This is Kildare.
This is
Yes.
Kildare, yeah.
Kenmare.
Eh?
Kenmare, was it?
Kenmare, yes, in Kerry,
Okay.
County Kerry.
County Kerry.
That's where the
Oh,
cake comes from. County
yeah.
Kerry.
All right, yeah.
And they left Ireland in 1845 or thereabouts, and they immigrated to South Africa.
Okay.
The old man was a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and then he subsequently took holy orders and became an Anglican priest
All right.
after he got to South Africa.
Okay.
So that's
So-
on your paternal side.
That's on my father's side.
Father.
So they were, and then the family spread out and they became farmers and all sorts of other people.
Also thought
So
Well,
the
they were-
scientific gene seems to be on your mother's
Scientific
side.
genes came from my
came
mother.
from mother side, yeah, yeah.
Mathematics and science.
Mathematics and science and chemistry, particularly.
Chemistry, yeah, well, my eldest son is a very qualified, well qualified. He's a doctor of chemistry from Cambridge.
He's
Well,
actually a crystallographer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So, can you tell a little bit about him, what he does and
What he does or what he did.
what he does and what he did?
Well, he was born we spent 6 years of my first marriage life in Trinidad in the West Indies. And he was
Okay.
born there.
All right. Okay.
And then we came to England and he went to school first in Surrey and then later on in Grimsby. And he finished off at Oundle, O-U-N-D-L. That's a public school, Oundle.
Okay. Yeah.
And he did very well. He got 3 A-level firsts for physics, chemistry and maths,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of scholarship levels as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came to South Africa, and on the strength of his A-level results, they let him off. In South Africa, matric is generally a year below the English sixth form.
Okay.
So it's,
All right.
you know. So they let him off the first year at University of Cape Town. He went straight into chemistry 2, physics 2 and maths 2, and then he did computer science and a whole lot of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he graduated at the end of the day, cum laude by miles, I think. he had 4 class medals, even one in computer science where he was, at the end, he got a class medal for that too, I think. Yeah, that's right. But he got firsts in everything, chemistry, physics, maths, and then he got an upper second in computer science or something. Just 1 year. No, not computer science, political science.
Oh.
Did an extra political science, completely different, got an upper second in that.
Oh, wow.
And all the rest he had first right the way through,
Yeah.
all 3 years. So he's very bright. And there was a visiting professor from Cambridge called Dr. Sheldrake, who came to Cape Town, and he got to know Guy and got to like him and this sort of thing, and then tried to persuade him to come to England and so on. And at that time, the company that I worked for, BP, had a 1/3 share in the company.
Okay.
And I asked them whether they had any scholarships for people, and they said yes, they did. And I said, well, would my son be eligible? Yes, of course. So he went and he was interviewed, and they liked him. So off he went to Cambridge, everything paid for, and he qualified, did a PhD there.
Okay.
And from the PhD went straight to Bristol, and he's been in Bristol ever since the last 40 years.
Wow.
Teaching chemistry, went up and being head of the School of Chemistry, the head of the department, and then Pro-Vice Chancellor, then Deputy Vice Chancellor now.
That's
So he's
so
gone right
great.
up the ladder.
You must be a proud father, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And what about your
And
other
then
son?
My other son was also born in Trinidad, and he went to school here, the same as his brother, to Arndel, but then we went back to South Africa, so he came back to South Africa, and he went to the school that I went to, which is St Andrew's College in Grahamstown, which is
Okay.
sort of local public school.
Oh,
equivalent, if you
wow.
like. And from there he went to Cape Town University, which is where I was and where Guy had been, and he took medicine there. And then he did his 2 years in the army, his army, and he took a year travelling the world. Spent a lot of time in India.
Is it?
Where you
Did
start
he go
off
to
in-
Calcutta as well?
Sorry?
Did he go to
Calcutta?
Calcutta?
Yes. Oh yes, he did, of course, yes. And he started off in Kerala and worked his way up, and even went to Rajasthan, riding a camel and all this.
All right, okay.
He had an interesting experience with a camel driver, because the camel driver got a boil on his bottom. So my son lanced it. And then he was a hero because the pain was all gone. They invited him to their home and all that. No, he had a wonderful time in India, thoroughly enjoyed, loved it. And then came to England and settled in Bath, and he did his training to be a GP.
GP, yeah.
3 years, and he finished his 3 years,
All right.
and then and he got married, and then they settled in Bath and lived here
Yeah.
ever since.
So you were talking about your grandson's marriage. Who's that?
And he married somebody from whose home I think is in, where's her home, Bron?
I'm not sure where she comes from, but she went to university in Canterbury.
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 She's just written a PhD on
Fragile X.
Fragile X. You know what Fragile X is?
No.
It's an extreme form of autism.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's been running the Society for Fragile X.
Really?
It's a syndrome.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Some sort of autism.
And
Yeah.
they got married. So she's also a doctor. She's a doctor, PhD, and he's a normal GP.
GP,
He's trained
medical
to be-
doctor.
He's
Yeah.
He's training to be a
Yeah,
GP.
yeah.
As a GP.
No, I'm asking. You said that there is some marriage in the family now in this holiday.
Yes, yes.
Who-
That was him.
That was
My
him.
son.
Oh,
This is my daughter-in-law who now, sorry, my granddaughter-in-law that we've been talking about Fragile X.
oh, right.
But it's my grandson
Who married her.
who's training to be a GP who married her.
Oh, okay. Oh, your grandson is also training to be a GP. That's
Oh, yeah.
great.
Yes.
Yeah. So doctor's family as well now. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've got few other questions about Nivedita, so I'll just stop this video.